She lost. The scoreboard read 6-3, 7-5. Straight sets. Another early exit for Alex Eala, the 19-year-old Filipino tennis prodigy. Another quiet walk off the clay court in Stuttgart. Another qualifying round defeat that would be forgotten by Monday. But here's what the scoreboard does not show. In the 72 hours after that loss, 3 separate coaches who have trained Grand Slam champions made phone calls that never leaked to the press. They called colleagues. They called analytics firms. They called each other. And the message was identical. Did you see what she did in the second set? Not the loss. The other thing. This is the story of the most important loss of Alex Eala's career. A loss that may have just transformed her from a promising junior into a legitimate threat on the WTA Tour. A loss that revealed a tactical evolution that no one saw coming, except the people who know tennis better than anyone. This is the anatomy of a defeat that was actually a beginning. The date was April 15th, 2026. The venue was the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart, Germany, for the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix, a WTA 500 event on red clay. The surface was slow, the balls fluffed up quickly, and the points stretched into double-digit rallies. For Alex Eala, a player whose natural instinct was to end points early with her powerful lefty forehand, this surface should have been a nightmare. Her opponent was a 27-year-old Czech qualifier, ranked 43 places above Eala, a veteran with 3 career titles and a decade of tour experience. On paper, this was a nightmare draw. The first set unfolded exactly as the Czech's coach had scripted. Eala came out firing forehand winners and aggressive returns, but the points ended too quickly. When she made the winner, she looked like a top 20 player. When she missed, and she missed often, she looked like an amateur. The scoreboard told the story. 4-1 to the Czech within 18 minutes. Eala's unforced error count was 12. Her winners were 3. Her body language was slumped shoulders, a drooping racket head, the 1,000-yard stare of a player who had been here before and knew exactly how this movie ended.
But then came the changeover. And this is where the match ceased to be routine. Eala's coach, Javier Mendoza, a 42-year-old Argentine former pro, did not talk about technique or footwork or even the score. Instead, he knelt in front of her and drew a rectangle in the air with both hands. Then he pointed to his temple. Then he pointed to the court. According to a team source, his words were simple. You are playing the scoreboard. Stop. Play the rectangle. Every ball that comes back is a gift. Take the gift. Do not return it with anger. Return it with patience. What followed was not a comeback. That would be too dramatic. Eala lost the first set, 6-3. But in the final 2 games of that set, something shifted that was invisible to the casual viewer, but screamed like a siren to any trained coach. The rally lengths expanded. Where Eala had previously ended points on the 4th or 5th shot, she now found herself in rallies of 8, 10, 12 shots. Her forehand became a tool of placement rather than pure power. She lost those games, but she lost them after 5 deuces, after 3 breakpoints saved, after the Czech had to sprint and slide and stretch for balls that Eala had previously hit out of the court. The second set was where the transformation became undeniable. Eala broke serve in the opening game, not with a blistering winner, but with a sequence that made tennis purists weep with joy. Forehand cross-court deep, backhand slice short and low, forehand down the line forcing the Czech to change direction, drop shot perfectly disguised, lob floated just over the outstretched racket, overhead put away. That point lasted 22 shots. On the WTA Tour, the average rally length is 5.8 shots. A 22-shot rally is an outlier, the kind of point that happens once or twice in a match. Eala constructed it like a symphony.
From that moment, the match became a chess match. The Czech, clearly rattled by Eala's sudden refusal to self-destruct, started making errors of her own.
Her first serve percentage dropped from 68 to 51%. She looked at her coach after losing her serve for the second time, and her expression was unmistakable. Who is this girl? Because the player she had dismantled in the first set was gone. In her place was a player who slid on clay like she had been born on it, who used the slice backhand not as a defensive necessity, but as an offensive reset, who changed the pace and spin of every ball so that her opponent could never find a rhythm. The set progressed to 4-4, then 5-5, then 6-5 Eala. She had a chance to serve for the set and force a third. And then the moment that will haunt her or fuel her, depending on how her career unfolds. She double faulted twice in a row. The first double fault, a first serve that caught the tape and dropped on her side, followed by a second serve that she tried to paint the line and missed by 2 inches. The second double fault, pure tension, a second serve that sailed long by a foot. Suddenly, it was 15-40, 2 set points for the Czech. Eala saved the first with a forehand winner that was pure instinct. But on the second set point, the Czech hit a deep return to Eala's backhand, and Eala rushing tried to drive it cross court and found the net. Game, set, match. Handshake, walk off. But here is the detail that every coach in the stadium noticed. When Eala walked to the net, she did not look defeated. She did not look angry. She looked confused. Not the confusion of a player who does not know why she lost. That confusion is common and forgettable. She looked like a physicist who had just won an experiment and gotten a result that contradicted.
In professional tennis, the gap between perception and reality is wider than almost any other sport. A player can hit 30 winners and lose. A player can make 20 double faults and win. The human brain is not designed to process the complexity of a tennis match in real time. That is why every serious player now employs analytics. And that is why in the 24 hours after the Stuttgart loss, Alex Eala's team did not watch the match to mourn. They watched it to dissect. And what they found in the data forced them to recalibrate everything they thought they knew about their own player. Let us begin with rally length. In Eala's previous 15 matches on clay, her average rally length was 4.7 shots. That number placed her in the bottom 12% of the WTA Tour. She was a sprint and finish player on a surface that demands a marathon mentality. In Stuttgart, her average rally length across the entire match was 8.9 shots. But that number is misleading because it includes the first 4 games of the first set, where her rally length was a paltry 3.2 shots. From the 4-1 mark of the first set onward, after Javier Mendoza's intervention, her average rally length jumped to 11.4 shots. And in the second set, it climbed to 14.2 shots. 14.2! The WTA Tour average on clay for winning players is 6.8 shots. For losing players, it is 5.1 shots. Eala's rally length in the second set was nearly triple the losing average and double the winning average. She was not just extending points.
Now consider unforced errors. Conventional tennis wisdom says that longer rallies produce more errors, more swings of the racket, more chances to miss. But Eala's error rate told a different story. In the first 4 games of the match, her unforced error rate was 34%. That is catastrophic. From the 4-1 mark onward, her unforced error rate dropped to 18%. In the second set alone, it dropped to 12%. And in rallies of 10 shots or more, of which there were 19 in the second set, her unforced error rate was an almost unbelievable 7%. 7%! The tour average on clay for rallies over 10 shots is 22%. Eala was 3 times more reliable than the average professional when the points got long. This is not a small statistical fluctuation. This is a signal. It says that Eala's errors are not a product of poor technique or lack of fitness. They are a product of decision-making. When she chooses to play patiently, she is extraordinarily clean. When she rushes, she bleeds points. The solution is not to fix her forehand. The solution is to fix her brain. The third metric is movement efficiency. Using a proprietary.
But the most telling statistic was not about Eala at all. It was about her opponent.
In the first 4 games, the Czech won 78% of points when she hit to Eala's backhand. Eala's backhand has historically been her weaker wing. Not a liability, but not a weapon either. She tends to float it long when rushed or leave it short when defensive. The Czech exploited that mercilessly in the opening games. But from the 4-1 mark onward, that number dropped to 49%. Why? Because Eala stopped trying to drive her backhand. She started slicing it low and skidding, neutralizing the pace. She started looping it with heavy topspin, pushing the Czech behind the baseline. She started changing the height and depth so that the Czech could never step in and attack. By the second set, the Czech had hit 23 backhand-to-backhand rallies that ended in an error, and 17 of those errors were on her side. Eala had turned her perceived weakness into a black hole, absorbing pressure and returning nothing but discomfort. One analytics consultant who works with multiple top 20 players reviewed the Stuttgart match data at the request of this documentary. His response was blunt. "I have been doing this for 12 years. I have analyzed matches for Grand Slam champions. I have never seen a single match improvement curve this steep. Usually, tactical changes take months of practice to manifest in competition. What Eala did in Stuttgart, changing her rally length distribution, her error rate, her movement efficiency, all within the span of 45 minutes of match time, is either a statistical anomaly or a sign of a player with an extraordinary capacity for in-match learning. My models suggest the latter. If she can replicate this, she will be in the top 50 within 12 months.
But replication is the hardest part, because the data, for all its promise, cannot measure what happens inside a player's head when the pressure returns. The Stuttgart loss, for all its statistical brilliance, was still a loss. And in the cold calculus of professional tennis, losses have consequences. Eala left Stuttgart with 1 WTA ranking point and approximately $2,000 in prize money after expenses. She flew back to Spain on a commercial flight. She posted a single Instagram story, a photo of the Stuttgart skyline with the caption, "Lessons learned," and then went silent for 3 days. But silence is not emptiness. During those 3 days, according to multiple sources, Eala did something that her coaches had never seen her do before. She requested every single match video of the Czechs' previous 5 tournaments. She watched them at 1.5 times speed, then at normal speed, then at 0.75 times speed. She took notes on the Czechs' patterns, her tendency to slice on the ad side, her preference for the inside-out forehand when stretched, the way she bites her lip before hitting a second serve. By the end of the 3rd day, Eala had produced a 12-page scouting report on a player she might never face again. She gave it to Javier Mendoza without being asked. Mendoza later told a colleague that he had coached 17 players who reached the top 100, and only 2 of them ever did something like that without being told. One of them made a Grand Slam final. The other had their career cut short by injury. "Alex is different from both," he said, "but she has the same fire, the same hunger, the same inability to let